ahead.
Everyone, I am David, host of Stonewall Generations, which is a series for Pride Live where we sit and talk to LGBTQ+ leaders. And I am sitting with an artist who some might say their superpower is high drama. But Queen, let me tell you, it's actually making people feel something. And it's more than just incredible talent or a voice that can truly make you believe. It is the fact that this person is an activist and an LGBTQ+ leader that actually cares and is not afraid to get their hands dirty. And I'm trying to keep myself composed because I am a fan and I am sitting here with the incomparable Adam Lambert.
Thank you. That was a beautiful intro. I'm so flattered. I blushed a little bit, I think. I was like, oh.
I blush all the time, so be prepared. I'm so excited. Thank you for doing this for us.
Yeah, my pleasure.
You've been a proud member of the LGBTQ+ community, out and proud member of the LGBT community for a long time, with a long history in activism and philanthropic work. You get your hands dirty, as I said. Why is this project, the creation of the Stonewall National Monument Visitor Center, so important?
Well, Stonewall, the riots that took place, this is like mainly considered by many, this is sort of the kickoff, the birth of the gay equality liberation movement. This is sort of the epicenter where people attribute it starting here on Christopher Street. I think having this visitor center be developed with all sorts of information inside, a way to come, it's a way to have a sort of pilgrimage if you're a gay person in the world, to come here and realize the power of that event. And putting a visitor center here and making it official, it reminds us that we are real, that we are here, that we are a force to be reckoned with. And knowing your history is really important. I think it makes us stronger, it makes us prouder, and we know that pride is a very, very important thing to our community, and it has been for, since the 60s in this movement. It's all about, in this space, it's all about, finding your pride and who you are, and your family, your wider family. And I think, as the queer community gets bigger and bigger and more powerful, the idea of what community is can get a bit watered down. But something like this, I think, will help us and remind us of what that community is.
Yeah, I get excited when you say that, because when you say family, I immediately think of Pride Live. I'm fairly new to the Pride Live family, though I've been a fan of our founder Diana for years and years and years.
Same.
She's the best. But I've heard about you from day one.
Oh.
Obviously, I know about Adam Lambert, the artist, but I've heard about your work in this organization from day one. What made you get involved specifically here and get involved so deeply?
The more and more people that I've met over the years, meet people that were kids when I was first on television, for example, that say things like, oh, you know what? You were the first, out gay person that I would sit and watch on television with my parents, which facilitated a conversation with my parents and let me come out to them. And I've heard versions of that story now more and more, and I think it just dawned on me that, yes, first and foremost, I'm an artist and a creative, and I want to create music and entertainment that centers around my experience, much of which is the queer experience. But it's more than that. I wanted to get involved in other ways and try to affect change. So I started Feel Something Foundation a few years back, and we've been partnering up with organizations like Pride Live. We helped put together the Stonewall Day in Los Angeles a couple years ago, which was a big concert. That was so much fun.
Which folks should know that it was 2021 and the rest of us were just trying to figure out how not to be in pajama pants.
Yeah.
And you
Yeah.
you decided to not only perform, headline, but you also curated in partnership with Pride Live.
Yeah, that was really fun. Yeah, I think being a queer artist has been such an interesting journey. The mainstream music industry in 2009 when I started, it was very, very straightwashed. That was what the deal was. And coming out onto the scene and trying to do the mainstream, pop music circuit, if you will, had its challenges. It wasn't easy. It was not an obvious path. And I learned a lot on the way. And what I love is in the past 13, 14 years, the change that has happened in the music industry for queer artists is incredible. You're seeing way more of us on the scene, a much more diverse representation of us on the scene. And now it's been proven that you can be a queer artist, and it doesn't mean you only have queer fans. It means you're a real, viable success. And I think the industry is paying attention to that and investing in that, and that's an exciting time. And part of that has to do with visibility and representation. That is the key. That's how we got there. You know, when someone sees somebody like themselves on television or hears somebody that identifies as they do on the radio, it helps us realize that we're okay. It helps us realize that we have every right and all the same rights as everybody else to be successful and to dream and to be whatever we want to be.
And I will say that you were that for me in a lot of ways.
Oh, thank you.
I am an old school fan. I am an Ozian, for those that don't know it. I'm a big Wicked fan. You were in Wicked. I could not be pulled off my couch when you were on American Idol. And you mentioned 2009. That was also a big moment for me because 1969, the Stonewall riots happened.
Yeah.
A movement is formed in New York City and in the world. And 40 years later, you'd think that we had made so much progress. You hit the stage at the American Music Awards, and there was this backlash. And I remember being shocked that people were shocked because I thought we'd gotten somewhere.
Same. I was equally as shocked because I was coming up in Los Angeles amongst other queer and allies and wild, crazy artists, and so my experience was a bit of a bubble. I was also coming to New York a bit, doing some auditions, and I had friends here, and it was just those two cities weren't really telling me what I didn't know about the rest of the country and the rest of the world, and that was sort of a big eye-opener for me. Is smooching a dude on an award show performance to me just felt like it was just a bit cheeky and a little mischievous. Mm-hmm. And the reaction it got made me go, oh, that's what I'm up against. That's what we're going to be dealing with. There was so much of a double standard, probably also because I was a guy and that I was out. It wasn't just a suggested, two women kissing for the straight gays. It was for, real representation of what I'm actually about. And it scared the hell out of me.
Yeah.
And and this was a really interesting time because not that long after that, we started the fight for marriage equality. I mean, it was all sort of in that same period and that same wave, and you saw the country sort of, grappling with the reality of that and all the debates that came around that and how marriage equality became a symbol for equality in general. And it was an exciting time because you also saw a lot of allies come up through the woodwork that I didn't realize we had in the way we had them. I thought our community we were just in it for ourselves, and we were sort of, there to fend for ourselves. Yeah. And the allies that came out in droves for us during marriage equality was amazing. Yeah. Many of those allies I actually have met along my way as an artist, and I have a lot of fans that are allies that don't necessarily identify as queer, but they are in it for the good fight.
Well, I think this is a lot about